everyone, it's Gina from orchidandopal.com, and I'm back today with a beaded flower tutorial. This comes from the contents of the recent August 2021 bargain bead box, where they had sent us the flower petals and the glass leaves and also the 4mm bicones. And I've just added some 11-0 seed beads, just round ones from my stash, to complete this flower, and I'm going to show you how to put it together today. And since I didn't have an extra 5 petals that I could use that were identical to the ones that came in the box, I did experiment with some other very similar sized glass petals with that top center drilled hole, and you can see that is the flower that you see on the right. It works well with all different petal shapes. Just the main thing is to get something that is similar in size and also has that same hole placement. And same with the leaves. So I will leave links to everything down below that I am using, including the bargain bead box subscription if you're interested in checking that out. There are other places where you can buy the glass leaves and petals and bicones and all those things separately, and I'll leave the quantities of everything that you'll need down below as well. As for my thread, I'll be using the 6-pound Fireline and also a size 10 beading needle. It'll probably take about 8 feet of thread to complete the flower, but you can just start with a comfortable length that you're working with and just add some extra thread later. I also want to mention that I'm going to have the step-by-step pictures and some instruction on my website, so I will leave the link to that blog post as well, so you can follow along with pictures and written instructions using the free pattern on my website, in addition to the video if you'd like. So without further ado, go ahead and thread your beading needle with a comfortable length of thread, and we will jump into this tutorial. All right, the first step is to string on a bicone, a seed bead, a bicone, a seed bead, bicone. Keep alternating these until you have 5 of each on your beading needle. And then once you have all those beads on your thread, you can pull them down to your tail thread, and you can make a half-hitch knot right there at the end of the beads, just to keep these beads in a loop. And actually, this is an overhand knot, not a half-hitch knot. I apologize. So you want to leave yourself a little bit of thread that you can weave back in later, but for now, that loop of beads is secure just like that. Next, what you're going to do is continue sewing through some beads. You want to be coming out of one of these 11-0 seed beads. So I'm just going through another bicone, coming out the 11-0 right there. And then I'm going to pick up 3 more seed beads, and I'm going to return through the same bead that I'm currently exiting, just from the other side. So I'm going back through that same 11-0 seed bead, and then I'm going to continue through the next bicone and through the next seed bead as well. And we're going to be doing this all the way around, so you're going to add 3 seed beads around each of these 5 single seed beads in between the bicones. So let's pick up another 3 and go back through the same seed bead and travel through the next bicone and the next seed bead and repeat. And I'm going through the last seed bead. I'm going to continue traveling through the next bicone and through the next seed bead that I get to. And so far, this is what you should have. I'm coming out of this seed bead right in between the 2 bicones. And I also put a needle on the tail thread that I had left, and I just wove that right around back into the piece and trimmed off the excess just to get that out of the way at the beginning. So now what you want to do is you can take your needle, go up through the seed bead on the right, then go through the seed bead that is on the top, that little picot. And this is where you get to start adding your petals. So get your 5 petals, make sure that you have them facing in the same direction when you put them on. We want these petals facing up. So you want the side that you want to look at the most facing up as you bead them on. And as you're coming out of the end of that little seed bead picot right there, you're going to pick up your first petal. And I'm going up underneath the petal bead so that the top once again is going to be facing up, so that when we string it down, it's going to be sitting just like this. Then what we want to do is pick up one seed bead and we want to return down through the petal. So just pull that down. That's going to put one seed bead right there on the top, and you're just going to pull that petal all the way down to the other seed beads behind it. And then if you look at the piece from behind the petal, you see that you first entered the petal from this side of the seed bead. So now you're going to actually enter the seed bead from the other side as you're securing that petal on. Just like that. Now go down through the next seed bead. You want to travel to your next section, following the thread path. Go through the seed bead there at the bottom. Go through the next bicone. Go through the next seed bead. And then up through that seed bead on the side of the next picot, and then through the top seed bead. You're going to do the exact same thing, picking up your next petal, making sure that you're going underneath that so that it will be facing up in the same direction as the other petal. And this is going to be loose at first, but it will tighten up. So don't worry if the petals are wobbling around a little bit on you right now. It's going to seem loose at first. Just try to get your thread and your beads as tight as possible as you go, but it will tighten up. I've picked up my seed bead. I'm returning back down the hole of the next petal, pulling that down to the seed beads below. Looking at the back once again, we had entered that petal from this side of the seed bead, so I'm going to now enter that seed bead from the opposite side. And we're going to do the same thing to continue on to the next section to add our remaining 3 petals. So just keep repeating that step, once again following your thread path over to your next section of seed beads, and come out of the top seed bead. And you're ready to add your next petal. All right, now you're gonna have something that looks a little bit like this. I'm gonna continue on down through that seed bead there at the bottom of those 4 that's in between the 2 bicones. Pull that nice and tight. And now I'm gonna flip the piece over so that we have the underside of the petals showing. And you can see the side that we have facing up does not include those single seed beads. Those are underneath the petals. And we want to make our way to the outer picot again of one of these clusters of seed beads. So I'm just going to follow my thread path up through that seed bead on the side. Then go through that seed bead right on the top. And then what we're going to do is we are going to be placing a bicone, a seed bead, and a bicone in between each of those seed bead points. So the next one is right here on the center of that next petal. I'm going to turn it a little bit, pick up another bicone, seed bead, bicone, and go through the next top seed bead. Turn it a little bit again and repeat all the way around. So bicone, seed bead, bicone, through the next point. And when you get to your last one, go through that seed bead on the top there. And continue on through the next bicone and the next seed bead. Give this a good pull. And that's what you should have so far. In this next step, you're going to be making some more seed bead picots, this time in between the petals, where you have these seed beads in between this outer ring. We're going to be making 5 of those. Those are going to be used to attach our leaves next. So first, pick up 3 seed beads. Again, once you're coming out of one of those seed beads in between the bicones there, in between the 2 petals, go back through the same seed bead, then go through the next bicone, seed bead, bicone, and come out the next seed bead where you're going to be making your next picot. You're going to end up with 5 of those. So there's our first one there. Now we're going to pick up 3 more seed beads and return through this same seed bead. Through the bicone, seed bead, bicone, and seed bead. And turn. And keep repeating that all the way around until you have a picot at each of those points. Once you have those in place, it is time to add our leaves. We can go ahead and flip the piece over again so those petals are facing up. And we want to follow our thread path up through the seed beads, coming out of the top of that picot that we just created there. And at each one of those points is where we're going to add our leaf. So just like we did with the petals, take your time because again, this is going to be a little loose at first until it starts to come together. So you just want to make sure you have a handle on what side the bead you are stringing on and don't get lost with where you are, for example. So with these leaves, they do have a etched side and a smooth side. I'm going to do the etched side facing up. So I'm going to try to string these on the same way all the way around the piece. And like we did before, I'm going to come from underneath of that bead. So the etched part is facing up. And I'm going to pick up a seed bead. And I'm going to go back down through that leaf and pull my thread. And pull that leaf to those seed beads below it. Looking at those seed beads below, we had entered this picot through this side. So now I'm actually going to return through that seed bead from the other side going this way. Then I'm going to head down the side through the next seed bead, through the next bicone, the next seed bead, the next bicone. We want to get over to that next picot section. Going through that seed bead at the bottom, heading up through the seed bead on the side, and finally coming out of the seed bead on the top. And there we are to add our next leaf. So we have one in place there. We are coming out of the top of this seed bead in this cluster between the petals, and now we can come up from underneath of our next leaf, pull that down, pick up a seed bead, and then go down through the hole of the leaf again, pulling our thread, pulling the leaf down to those seed beads, and going through that seed bead right below the leaf from the opposite direction. Just like that, and then down through the seed bead on the side, through the seed bead on the bottom, and we're going to travel to our next point. So through the bicone, through the seed bead, through the bicone, and the next seed bead, and up and over. So you should have something that looks like that so far. Continue on until you've added all of your leaves. Do 3 more at your 3 picots, just like we've done before. All right, so this is what you have so far once all the leaves are on, and you can see each of these petals and leaves, if you take note, if you have them faced up in the correct direction, they're each going to have one single seed bead on the top. And it's easy for them to flip around a little bit right now till we get them all together. But right now we're going to be pulling the petals together in the center, so just make sure you have your petals faced all in the correct direction with a single seed bead on the top. And what we're going to do is you need to follow your thread path up and out of the top of one of these seed beads at the top of your petal. And then once you're coming out of one of those, you're going to pick up a bicone, and then you're going to go through a seed bead, the seed bead on the next petal, then repeat that all the way around. Pick up a bicone, go through the seed bead on the next petal, going through the third one. It's going to cinch all this up. Picking up a bicone, going through the fourth, and then our fifth bicone, and I'm going to go through the seed bead and the next bicone. I'm actually going to go around this center ring. Again, you can see when I pull this together, those petals start to kind of come up a little bit. That kind of comes together better. I'm going to hold this in my thumb and my forefinger, and I'm going to go around to reinforce that whole center section again where we just added the bicones. Do that at least one more full loop around, because that'll strengthen that area, which will be a good thing. All right, next, just continue on through one of the seed beads in front of the petal, and then head down through the petal and flip over your beadwork. And now just get your bearings here, have your petals kind of facing that correct way. These are going to be upside down because we're looking at the bottom of the piece. And then continue on through the next bicone, the next seed bead, and then continue through the next bicone that you get to, which is going to be underneath one of those petals. And we're going to be popping in 3 seed beads at each of these points in between the 2 bicones that are underneath the petal. So coming out of this bicone, I'm picking up 3 seed beads and then going through the next bicone, the next seed bead, and the next bicone. Here we'll pick up another 3 seed beads, and we'll go through the next bicone and the next seed bead and the next bicone. I like to turn my piece a little bit as I go. I still need to go through the next bicone. And then repeat all the way around. So I'm coming out of this bicone right here. So next I want to make my way up through the next 2 seed beads underneath that petal. And this is where we're going to start to reinforce this base layer. So I'm coming out of the seed bead on the top of this picot that we just made with the 3 seed beads. And we're going to pick up 1 seed bead, 1 bicone, and 1 seed bead. Then we're going to head through the seed bead at the top of the picot right underneath the leaf. And we're going to be doing this all the way around. Pick up a seed bead, a bicone, and a seed bead, then go through the top of the next picot. Seed bead, bicone, seed bead, and once again through that top seed bead, this time under the leaf. Make sure that these bicones sit underneath the petals, and then give it a turn and keep going until you have your seed bead, bicone, and seed bead in between each of the top beads in each of those picots. All right, I'm adding in my last seed bead, bicone, and seed bead, and I'm going to go through the top of that picot, and I'm just going to continue through the next seed bead, through the next bicone. Let me get those popped into place. And then I'm going to go through the next 2 seed beads right below that leaf, which is wanting to flip around on me. But go through the next 2 seed beads. Which positions you right underneath the leaf, and then go up through the leaf and flip your piece over where you have the leaves facing right side up and you have a seed bead on top of each one. And go ahead and proceed through the seed bead there at the top of the leaf you just came out. And now we're going to be able to tighten up these leaves further. So coming out of the seed bead, right there at the top of this leaf, you're going to be able to pick up 3 seed beads. And then you see this next seed bead section right underneath that next petal. Go through the middle one that's right in between those top 3 seed beads. And make sure your thread does not sit on top of the petals. Make sure it is going in the right place. This is going to start to bring the leaves up. That's going to hold the petals up. It's going to hold the leaves up and give us that nice shape that we're looking for. Coming out of the seed bead there in the center, pick up 3 more seed beads and then go through the seed bead on the top of the next leaf and pull. And this is one of those steps where you'll go around this several times to tighten this up. For now, it's a little bit loose. Pick up 3 more seed beads. And then look at your next seed bead section and go through that middle one of those top 3. Pick up 3 more seed beads. Go through the seed bead at the top of the next leaf. Pick up 3 more seed beads. Look at your next seed bead section under the petal. Go through that middle one. Turn the piece a little bit and continue on. Do this all the way around, going through the next seed bead on the leaf. Three more, going through the middle seed bead there. And keep just holding this together with your fingers, making sure the leaves are staying right side up. Take your time. Took me a lot of trial and error to even get this design to work. So if you mess up or anything, don't feel bad. Just try again. They're just beads. That's what is so nice about beads, is that you can just take something apart and try it again. And it's all part of learning too. All right, so now we reached the last leaf. I'm going to go through that seed bead on the top of the leaf and just give you a minute to kind of take a look at what the piece should look like, although it is still a little bit loose. You see some thread, and like I said, that's going to tighten up, but you should have something like this so far where you have these seed beads kind of going around the top of the leaves. And now what you're going to do is go around that whole area again. So I'm just going to keep going through the 3 seed beads we added, plus the single seed beads all the way around. And you can even take your fingers and start to push these leaves up a little bit. That will help you as you tighten to be able to tighten your thread even further. And in the end, you really shouldn't have any excess areas of thread that are exposed. It should be nice and tight. So go around that whole area, pushing up the petals and the leaves a little bit to enable yourself to pull everything together tightly. Because this is where that is going to happen, is for the most part at this stage in the piece. And in the end, you get a really stable and dimensional flower that keeps all those leaves and flower petals centered and in shape without wobbling around. All right, so this is starting to really come together a lot better, and we can flip over our piece again now and follow your thread path. So I'm just going to go up through those 2 seed beads to get over to the next bicone, and you can come out of the next seed bead right there below the leaf. I'm going to actually continue on through the next 2 seed beads. I'm going to come out of the bicone right underneath one of these petals, and this is just some further embellishing with seed beads at this point. I'm going to pick up 3 seed beads and add them in between, going through the next bicone. Going to go through the next 3 seed beads and the next bicone. Pick up another 3 seed beads and go through the next bicone. And the next 3 seed beads, and keep doing that all the way around. You can see adding those little peaks in each of those sections underneath the petals. And once you've gone through that last section, go through the next bicone and the next single seed bead right here underneath the leaf. Then pick up 3 seed beads and go down the 3rd seed bead as well as the bicone. So you get the extra longer point there. Then go up through the next seed bead. Pick up 3 seed beads, go down the 3rd seed bead there underneath the petal, go through the next bicone, 1st seed bead, and repeat this all the way around. Going through the 3rd seed bead and the bicone, and the next seed bead, picking up 3, skipping that center one, going down the 3rd seed bead, and so on. Now at this point, once you've done that, you can go through, I'm going to go through the next 2 seed beads in between the bicones right underneath that leaf. Now I'm going to go down through the beads on that picot right there in that next ring. And I'm going to go over and through that next seed bead that's sitting right in between that next row of bicones. From there, and I may run out of thread, I'm going to have to sadly add some more thread on just to finish up the little bit that we have left. But from there, we're going to pick up 3 more seed beads, and this is purely ornamental. I just like the way it looks on the back when we do this. So I'm going to pick up 3 seed beads. Now I'm going to go through the seed bead in that center ring that's right between the bicones. This is going to form like a little star shape on the back. And I'm going to pick up 3 more seed beads, go through the seed bead that you get to next at the bottom of that next cluster. Take your time going through that. Gets a little bit tighter, and if you need to, switch to a smaller needle. Pick up 3 more seed beads. Go through the next seed bead in that center ring. Keep pulling as you go. Again, 3 more seed beads. Then go through the seed bead at that bottom cluster of seed beads on the leaf. Pull. You can see that's starting to form that little star of seed bead shape, and let me show you what that will end up looking like here. So that's what we're working on. So pick up 3 more. Go through the seed bead there in the center, going all the way around. Turning through that final seed bead once again. And I will have to add a little bit more thread on in order to finish up the last step of what we need to do for this beadwork. But that's how you get that star effect on the bottom. And I'm just going to make a half hitch knot right here to tie off this piece of thread, and I will add a new one off camera. And show you the last step of the beadwork. All right, so a little tip for you. I added some thread, and I keep a little box of scrap Fireline. So when I have, say, a foot or 2 left maybe from a project, I actually don't toss it. I just put it in this little box of scrap thread. So if I'm doing a project and I need a tiny little piece to finish up what I'm doing, I don't have to pull off a brand new piece of thread. So just a little tip there for you. So what we want to do now is we want to make our way to the front of the piece. We want to come out of one of the seed beads in that central ring of bicones in the middle of the flower. So we just need to follow the thread path to get there. So I'm just going through some of these seed beads. I'm going to go up through here, and I'm going to go over through that bicone. I'm going to go up this way, and then I'm just going right up through that flower petal right there. I'm so close to where that is, and that thread will be hidden, so it's all good. So now, once you are coming up out of the petal, you can then scoot through the seed bead that's on top of it, and then you're going to add 4 seed beads in between each of those seed beads in the center ring. So pick up 4, then go through, then go through the next seed bead on the center ring. I like how this just kind of finishes off the center of the flower, especially if you're using a contrasting color or metallics. I think it looks kind of cute. 4 more seed beads, then through the next, right there. And 4 more. And repeat this all the way around. Making sure your thread stays on the right side of the petals. Pull nice and tight. And now I'm going through the last one, but I'm also going to go through all these beads one more time before I knot and weave my thread back in. pull that nice and tight. This is what you should have though. Like I said, I'm going to go through all these beads again and then tie a knot off my thread, and then we'll be able to admire our work. So there you have the beaded flowers all said and done. I've brought over a little pin clip right here just to show you could either glue or sew something like this on the back of your flower. It's got that nice flat base. They also make round brooch clips. You can add one of those to the back, for example, or bead this onto something else. Some other type of hair accessory like somebody had mentioned to me before in the comments, or some other accessory. But that is how you can turn those petals and leaves into a beautiful and dimensional beaded flower. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope it was helpful for you, and I hope it was easy for you to follow. Don't forget, you can check right down below for the full list and links to everything that you need to make these beaded flowers, and you can use different shapes of petals. I'll link specifically to a glass petal kit that I gotten from bbcraft.com. That one has all different shapes of petals that could be used in this application. That's where I'd gotten these additional ones. And if you plan to give this a try or have given this a try, feel free to leave me a comment down below. Or if you have anything else you'd like to say, a huge thank you to you all for being with me. Always grateful to have you here. Definitely hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, so you'll be notified when I'm posting new content, which is all the time. And also don't forget to give the video a big thumbs up. As a reminder, I will have some pictures of the step-by-steps, a free pattern essentially of this on my website. I will link that in the corner and down below, so feel free to check that out. And I'll be back again real soon. In the meantime, I hope you all have a fabulous rest of your day. And as always, happy beading.